I started on Sony in the mid-thousands. When I started shooting professionally, I went to Nikon. Then I went to Fuji. Now I'm back on Sony. Is Canon just the next logical step? I don't know. The weekend just passed, we were over in the small Cotswolds town of Blockley. While I was there, I ordered an intervalometer to shoot some time-lapse stuff. But, and it pains me to say it because I'm a little bit invested in the system, the Sony cameras are shocking when it comes to things like that. And here's why. The batteries are awful in the Sony system, and for most of the time I can work around that. I can plug it in directly into power, or I can hook it up to a USB battery pack and it works great. So unlimited power, kind of. It even helps a little bit with the overheating when shooting in 4K. But in the Cotswolds, obviously we're in the thick of autumn, which meant beautiful colours, but it also meant it was freezing, and that was killing the battery. Little handy tip I've got when it comes to drone footage, at least, or drone flying should I say, is in here underneath my armpit I have my battery, and what you'll find is when it's cold you'll get frequent warnings telling you that the battery can't operate. I was getting about, on a full charge with like everything turned off, I was getting about 60 to 90 shots, which is shit because that's like 2 to 3 seconds of footage, which just is not useful really. Basically while we were there I was looking at shooting fast motion and slow motion. The weather was supposed to be really nice for the time-lapse stuff. So today I've got out pretty early. I left it till the sun kind of came up, but I just wanted to get this really like beautiful sort of morning light. And then for the high-speed stuff, we were going to go to a falconry display, which we did, and it was amazing. And actually the Sony a6300 shone again. I wasn't always in the best position, but it was keeping up. The autofocus was great. The high-speed stuff looks incredible for a camera that cost me about £900 with a kit lens. That's impressive, right? But obviously the Sony let me down on the battery. I had plenty of batteries with me, so shooting the high-speed stuff was absolutely fine. This comes at a time though when I'm rethinking my camera system. I don't usually shoot stuff like events or weddings. I used to shoot weddings, I used to use Nikon for that. I used to only shoot stills, and Nikon was fantastic. Really, really great. The Nikon D700 was a super workhorse of a camera. Problem is, when I'm shooting architecture, when I'm shooting products, often I'm correcting for perspective shifts, and having the high megapixel from the Sony a7R series is invaluable. But the reason it's invaluable is because Sony don't have any perspective correcting lenses, you know, tilt shift lenses, which means that you do have to rely on that megapixel count to force stuff in Photoshop or Lightroom, which brings to the front two other points about the Sony systems. The lens selection isn't great. It's getting much better, but you're still paying a premium for Sony lenses. The reason I got into the Sony in the first place, other than just being interested in it and wanting to try something new, was, and Nikon was, I felt like Nikon was floundering at the time, was because you could adapt other lenses onto it. With Metabones adapters and with the sort of really cheap, just completely manual adapters, you get a really great lens selection. And that was good because I really like vintage lenses. I had a lot of vintage Nikon lenses. That's in fact why I went with Nikon in the first place, because they had a lens selection that fit natively, that went back a very long time compared to Canon, which has changed their lens mounts. And so vintage lenses, I had a load of them. I don't have so many anymore. I tend to rely on autofocus a little bit more now as well. So where does that leave me? Well, it leaves me with a system that isn't exactly great for my needs. I think Canon has much better lenses. It seems that Canon does video really well, although you have to go right to the top to get that. And the other thing, obviously shooting with super high megapixel, high resolution images, you're burning through memory cards, and with the Sonys, you only get one slot, apart from in the new A9 and the new A7R3. So this A7R3 and the lenses that are coming out with it, they go a long way to addressing these needs, but I don't think they go all the way. And if you look at something like the Canon 1DX, which is kind of, give or take a bit of money, is comparable to this Sony A7R3, I think the smart money is on the Canon stuff. As I said in the intro, I started on Sony back in my point and shoot sort of Cybershot days. Moved from that to Nikon when I started shooting professionally, and the Nikon system was a great system for stills. It did me proud. I had the D700, the D300, great pair of cameras. Had some fantastic lenses for them, still got a few of those lenses. I started a bit of a move to Fuji, but then I got interested in video, and the Sony stuff was much more promising on the video side. And also the A7R series, I think I landed a second-hand A7R over a year ago now for about 900 quid, and it's been a fantastic camera. Really great for sticking on a tripod, shooting architecture, shooting products, shooting food, things like that. It's worked great. Real major shortcoming with the Sonys that I haven't mentioned yet is the tethering, getting the Sony to talk to the computer. The amount of times that I've been ready to throw the camera or the computer out of the window because of the tethering issues. There's no native way to go straight from the camera to Lightroom or to Capture One, even though Sony has a deal with Capture One. It's a horrible system where you have to go through Sony's remote, put it into a hot folder, and let that hot folder drag the pictures into Lightroom or Capture One. Not something I'm interested in doing too. I know it's really tough when you're choosing a new camera system. I've done it 3 times now. I'm about to do it for a 4th, potentially. It costs a lot of money, it's frustrating, it takes time. I hope this video can give you a little bit of an insight into why you might choose one over the other, and maybe why Sony is for you or isn't for you. If you check out the other videos that I'll put here, and do me a favour, hit this thing and subscribe. Laters. One thing you may have noticed in this video is the background I'm on is black. I've not used this background before. This is basically just my studio with this wall painted black, which is going to be addressed in my next video, which is to do with backgrounds and how to make backgrounds, backdrops, stuff like that. If you check out the other videos that I'll put here, and do me a favour, hit this thing and subscribe. Laters.